Listener discretion is advised.
All right. Well, you are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Oh, jeez. All good, gosh golly.
And also dance on camera for the Patreon videos.
Also, I don't know if I've ever shared my my mouse pad.
The Nulls.
The Nulls. Bill and Amanda Null.
It's their outtake from their
Oh, no,
Christmas
we
card.
use this for our Christmas card. We just put this one on the back and a cute one on the front.
Oh,
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Clearly, you already threw it out.
I didn't,
No, I'm just
actually.
kidding.
It's up in my kitchen.
Well, that's nice of you.
I
I
threw
threw
it
out
out.
everybody's Christmas cards within like 2 months of the holiday.
It's time.
months. I basically opened them. I'm like, aw.
I open them and then I put them on my tree. So by the end of the holiday, my tree is like covered in cards. Then I give them one last, that's cute. And then I burn all of it in a manic episode.
Mine are still up, but I
It's
should
a holiday
probably
tradition.
take them down. Zach,
Kenyon.
I know. Zach, not like up around the house, but I have like one area of my kitchen that has like notes.
Okay,
and
that's fine. That's
cards.
acceptable. That's cute. And then as new notes take priority,
Right.
you can ditch the people you like the least.
Actually, it's funny that we talked about this because like 2 days ago, and we are recording this on April 9th. So the beginning of April, I got a Christmas card in the mail from our friend Catherine.
Yep, we all did. Better late than never.
They
I
were
loved
so
it.
cute.
With a handmade quilted ornament. They're
Yes.
so cute. Yay, there it is.
Yes, okay, you guys got them too.
The
It's
little
perfect.
cat butts.
I love
Yeah.
better late than never. Girl,
Yeah.
we feel you.
I say that you're just early.
Yeah.
You're way early.
You're just
so
really
on top
early.
Of it.
It's Christmas's half birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas's half birthday.
Almost.
Well, considering Christmas is not on Jesus' birthday, then yes,
Yeah.
it's Christmas's half birthday.
It's a pre-Easter holiday card.
Speaking of
Priester.
causes for celebration, we have a butt plug today before we get to the episode.
Yes.
hell
okay.
yeah.
I didn't know what you were talking about. Take it away.
Okay. So after a long, dark, sad, depressing hiatus from audience interaction, we are taking one small step out of the COVID shadows and hosting a live show virtually
Yep.
on Friday, May 7th.
Yeah.
Less than
Mother's
a month.
Day weekend.
We are going to ring in Mother's Day weekend with inappropriate, murderous laughter.
Yeah.
So by the time you're listening to this, tickets should be on sale. We will have posted information on our social media as well as our website. So you can head to our website, wineandcrimepodcast.com, to get your tickets to our virtual live show.
Yeah.
It's going to be super cool. We're really excited.
So excited.
I'm so excited. So the way it's going to work is it's going to be different from our like regular video episodes where the three of us are in different places. We will all have our shots by then, both shots. We will be fully vaxxed and hashtag not waxed because I don't do that.
I have my
Waxed,
limits.
not waxed.
Because I tried that once and never again.
Bruising. Who knew?
Ugh.
Oh, God. I'm
No.
triggered. I don't want to talk about it.
So the three of us are going to be live in person in a studio and then along with actually our moms, which is very fun.
They'll be in a
And-
separate room, but yes.
Yeah. And then you guys will buy tickets, you will watch the show virtually, and then there will be some other fun audience interaction things like
Yeah. We're going to have like a running chat so you can like heckle us from your couches. We're going to do a little Q&A at the end so you can ask us some questions in the chat. There's also going to be an option for you to submit a question when you buy your ticket so that we can see it ahead of time so we can anticipate what you want to know. we're going to be debuting new wines as part of the Gals wine line. It's going to be like a really cool, fun,
spectacular.
event. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
A charade.
It
And,
will
like,
be a charade.
Little buttons to like buy merch.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be a party. It's going to be very interactive. I'm very excited for it.
Yeah. So mark your calendars for May 7th and go check out our website and get your tickets.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
All
it.
right. Well, today we have a very special fan pick brought to you by Alex D. It's so
The
cold
D.
in the D.
The big D.
Alex has selected the topic of crimes that inspired songs. And we've done like musicals and things like that, but this is different. This is like a true crime that then a recording artist found inspiration from and created a song.
Yep. Yep.
All right.
I love it.
What's our wine crime pairing, Amanda?
Well, Winc has done it again with the perfect wine for an episode with songs and sound specifically. So we're drinking Winc's Wall of Sound Red Blend.
Oh,
I like
Because
it.
what is a song other than a wall of sound?
Love it.
Don't make me sing.
Oh, okay.
Don't make me sing.
Twist my arm.
Twist it. I'm basically Linda from Bob's Burgers. So just a quick reminder, Winc Wine Club is the greatest creation of God and man. It is an online wine club that delivers wine directly to your door. And, you know, you can go to their website and order wines a la carte, which is great, but I highly recommend becoming a member. We've all been members for 4 years now because they were like one of our first sponsors. God bless them. And their inventory is amazing and always changing. They make awesome recommendations. They like get to know you as a member so that if you forget to pick out a wine, they're just like, we know what you like. And they just curate a box and send it to you without you even having to think about it. They're like, don't worry. We've been tracking your depression for the last 4 years. We know what you need. Yeah, if you've never checked out Winc Wine Club before, check them out. Go to trywinc.com/gals for $20 off your first box. Members also get membership pricing, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And if you put 4 or more bottles in your cart, they take care of the shipping. It's a literal miracle.
And you always have a bottle of wine to bring over as like a gift if you're invited somewhere now that like being invited places is a thing again soon.
Yeah, you got to remember the like social requirements of interacting with people. That's hard.
Yeah.
Let
I am
Winc help
nervous
you.
about it.
I'm terrified. I'm not
Yeah.
ready.
Terrified.
Terrified. Speaking of not ready. So this blend combines predominantly Zinfandel and Cab Sauv with a dash of Merlot to just tie everything together in a floralist and silky way. She's fermented in stainless steel to completely preserve the authentic flavors of the grapes. Yes, she is fermented, which results in a fruit-forward and earthy red with a perfect kiss of sweetness, just like my voice. She's full-bodied.
Amanda was in choir. Can you tell?
And theater. The theater.
She was a theater kid.
I was a thespian. She's full-bodied and packs a punch at 14.2% ABV. My God. She's also a popper, so you're going to want to get your nice pop wine key from our online store at wineandcrimepodcast.bigcartel.com. And I had a guest, a user testimonial recently. I think this was actually also our friend Catherine, who was like, thank you for turning us on to wine keys, so I stopped using those like
Turning
garbage.
you on.
Yes, those like garbage bunny rabbit ear wine openers
Those
that
are
are.
garbage because I liked ours. We don't have this merch item anymore on Forge because it's no longer being like produced by that factory. But I go back and forth
Yeah.
I like the bunny. If you have a good quality bunny ear one, it actually works really nicely.
Yeah, it's just
And it
harder to
just-
find a good one of those that's going to last. Whereas with the
Yeah.
wine key,
Yeah.
it's like less expensive and more of a guarantee, in my opinion.
And it's petite.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on your-
Have one.
Depends on your dexterity and your wrist strength, too.
Oh,
you know.
absolutely.
To each their own.
Find what works for you. I hate the rabbit ears.
Okay.
Anyway, are we ready to pop?
Yeah.
Ready?
All right, I took that time to distract like a magician so I could prep this. Here we go.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Kind of an early
A
pop.
musical pop.
It was.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Ooh,
I
look
made
how
myself a
rich.
cocktail today.
Oh. I'm still drinking coffee. It's 4 p.m., which is still morning for me.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep.
All right, Lucy, what is our background and probably not psych for crimes that inspired songs?
Oh, that's not good.
Your cocktail's not good?
Uh-uh.
Oh, no.
What'd you make it out of?
It's got vodka. It's got that Calypso strawberry lemonade and topped off with some 7-Up. I'm scraping the bottom of my barrel right now.
Yeah.
Hey, scrape away, honey.
I don't have a lot in the fridge right now. Okay, anyway,
Been there.
I'll be fine. So actually this week I have neither background nor psych.
Okay.
Doing a little something different. I thought I'd have some fun with this topic, so I'm going to tell you about a bunch of songs that have interesting and sometimes kind of dark backstories.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
So basically just kind of what you're doing, but like shallow dives, not related to true crime for the most part.
I love it.
Okay, starting us off, we got I Shot the Sheriff by Bob Marley. Reggae icon Bob Marley was incredibly adept at weaving rather complicated storylines into his music. Take his 1973 song, I Shot the Sheriff, for example. According to Marley's ex-lover, the song actually details, this is really fucked, his desire for her to not take birth control pills, something he allegedly believed to be sacrilegious. She says the sheriff was the doctor who prescribed her the pills. So when you re-examine the lyrics, like every time I plant a seed, he said kill it before it grow, it seems to make sense. And although
But then who's the deputy?
Me.
his lover, maybe?
It's Q.
It's Q. Yeah, it's Amanda. Although Marley never
Q
confirmed
Amanda.
the meaning himself, he did say in 1974, that's not really a sheriff, it's the elements of wickedness. I don't know who the deputy is. Who cares?
That's odd.
I know.
Although it
That was-
reminds me of that song by
I
was
Shot
it
the
the
Sheriff?
Roots? The Roots song, The Seed. That song.
Oh, yeah.
That's a dope song.
Okay.
Okay. Coming up next, we got Poker Face by Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga's early hits often explored her bisexuality. In some, it was openly discussed, like in So Happy I Could Die, where she talks about falling for a lavender blonde. Lavender blonde. That sounds pretty.
Yeah. It does.
I bet she smelled good, too. And that was the case for 2008's Poker Face. Gaga opened up about the real meaning of the song in 2009, where she said it during a performance that Poker Face is about being in a relationship with a man while fantasizing about being with a woman.
Okay, well, I love that.
Interesting.
He can't read
Okay.
my poker face.
He can't find my clitoris.
Yeah, exactly. My poker clit.
What?
Ew. Okay.
Sir.
Harder to Breathe by Maroon 5. I would argue their earliest hit and also their best song to date. I love
Harder
that song.
to Breathe by that high school band of 15-year-olds in the band Shell and Excelsior that I didn't know that they were doing a cover.
Oh, yeah. You were
Oh,
like, this
no.
song is great.
Yeah, I
They
came back,
wrote this?
I came back from France and whatever boy you had a crush on, the like drummer Babs.
Oh, Nate Babs. Hi,
Yeah.
Nate.
He his like high school band was doing a cover of that Maroon 5 song, but I had never heard that song before because I'd been out of the
Really?
country. And then they played it and I was like, you guys are amazing. Do you have an agent? You should be on the radio. Like, I was like freaking out because it was like, this is a hit.
Like,
Yeah.
yes, it is.
You're right.
Oh, no, that's embarrassing.
That's real embarrassing. And I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Okay, so contrary to popular belief, this steamy love song that appeared on Maroon 5's debut album, Songs About Jane, was actually not detailing lead singer Adam Levine's love life.
And not
In
even
fact-
about Jane.
No, it wasn't even about Jane. In fact, Harder to Breathe was actually inspired by pressure from the band's record label, pressure from Kenyon Lang, when it came to the 2002 album. That song comes sheerly from wanting to throw something. It was the 11th hour. The label wanted more songs. It was the last crack, Levine told MTV in 2002. I wanted to make a record, and the label was applying a lot of pressure, but I'm glad that they did. And I'm going to jump ahead.
That's like
I think I
Alanis
kept
Morissette's song. What the fuck am I thinking of? Not
The
I
one
Live.
about
learn.
Dave Coulier.
She had her like whole big album that came out was basically a big fuck you to her record label because she had been
Jagged Little Pill.
she had been like a pop star as like a teen, and then they were trying to make her like sexualized and whatever and fit that mold, and she was just like, I am out,
Yeah,
and
fair
made
enough.
Jagged Little Pill.
Well, thank God she did.
Yep.
On that same note, Love Song by Sarah Bareilles.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to...
Okay, so that she wrote that for the same reasons.
Yeah, because her label was like pressuring her to write these fluffy, dumb songs she didn't want to write.
Yep.
Good for her.
Bareilles wrote this song for record label execs who were demanding that she write a romantic tune that she just didn't have it in her. Quote, they had encouraged me to keep writing and I just wasn't having any luck. And I was turning in the beginnings of ideas and snippets of moments into a song. And I was really just getting a sort of blasé reaction to everything. It's totally honest. And I'm very lucky that the label liked it as well, which I like. You know, I'm not going to write you a love song just because you asked for it, just because you need one. Just like literally speaking to the record execs, which I like.
It's a bop.
It's a bop. It's an bop.
We'll get to bop.
Oh, thank God.
So next is Waterfalls by TLC. According to Chili, 1/3 of TLC, almost nobody understood the meaning behind it until the video dropped. Quote,
Yeah.
when it first went to the radio, nobody got it. They didn't understand what we were talking about. The song and music video portrayed deep issues like violence in the illegal drug trade and unprotected sex leading to HIV/AIDS, but you might not notice if you're not paying close attention. So lyrics like, his health is fading and he doesn't know why. 3 letters took him to his final resting place.
Which everybody was like, AIDS is 4 letters. And it's like, dumb. They're talking about HIV.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah. It's
Keep up.
fine.
Take a health class.
yeah,
Keep up.
fucking keep up.
Okay, I like this one. Les Freaks by Chic.
Oh,
You know that song?
Oh, yeah.
So here's the backstory. On New Year's Eve, Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards of Chic were invited to Studio 54 by Grace fucking Jones.
ever heard of him? Her? Them?
them. However, the bouncers hadn't gotten the updated guest list and refused them at the door. Their chagrin inspired the duo to go home and write a song about the experience. The chorus originally went, fuck off. But the groove was too infectious to waste on a song that wouldn't get played on the radio, so they changed it to Freak Out.
I
That's
love that.
so great.
I
Yeah.
know.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay, My Boyfriend Neil Diamond coming up next. Cracklin' Rosie was his first #1 hit, and most people just assumed that Cracklin' Rosie, described in the song as a store-bought woman and poor man's lady, was a sex worker. turns out Rosie wasn't even meant to be a person at all. He said it was inspired by a Native American tribe in Canada, which had more men than women. So on Saturday nights when they all go out, the guys all got their girl, Diamond said. But the guys who weren't able to find a girl got a bottle of Cracklin' Rosie instead, which is like, I think some kind of like malt liquor or like a wine maybe. Some kind of alcohol.
Oh, interesting.
So that's their girl for the weekend. And some wineries even briefly sold their own version of Cracklin' Rosie wine, though it was never as popular as the song. Nothing ever
Cracklin'
will be.
Rosie Blurgenlinger's fruit wine.
I just watched that episode of Schitt's Creek.
It's my favorite, and there are so many
good.
of those type of wineries like in this area. So like driving places will pass all of these like fruit wineries.
So good. Erblerdlinger. You won't be able to keep yourself from saying Erblerdlinger.
Fruit wine.
Fruit word. It's a stellar ad. I would have been at that winery so fast had I seen that in the wild.
Have you guys seen the last few episodes of the last season?
I finally
No,
did
I just watched the
end.
whole first season. I'm about to start season 2.
I
I'd never
forgot. You're a
watched
freshie.
Schitt's Creek. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not giving
God,
anything
if only I
away.
could go back.
A word.
I'm not giving anything away, but I am going to say a word. Moira does like a little commercial for Schitt's Creek, the town. And it's kind of the same, like, she's just sort of like wafting onto the set. And then every time the camera like pans onto like something else, her lips are so red.
I
She
know from all
makes
the
this weird
wine.
smile like,
It's so good.
it's
She
so
is
round. It's my favorite
Everything
show.
about her is perfect.
All right, Kenyon, you'll like this one. 99 Laughed Ballons by
Oh,
Nina.
yeah.
This was inspired by something lead singer Gabrielle Kerner witnessed at a Rolling Stones concert in West Berlin during their Tattoo You tour. Quote, Mick Jagger released thousands of balloons at the end of the concert, she recalled. They were all picked up by the wind and carried in the direction of East Berlin over the Berlin Wall.
Ooh, that's badass.
I'll never forget that image. She and guitar lyricist Carlo Kargis imagined what might happen if the balloons were mistaken for UFOs, which led to various countries shooting missiles at each other and inevitably a full-on nuclear war. So 99 Lâche Ballons is about nuclear devastation caused by an innocent bundle of balloons released into the sky by Mick Jagger.
Did not know any of that.
God
But I
bless.
love
Bizarre.
that it's a fire song in 2 languages.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is one of my favorites. Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton.
Oh. Is Eric Clapton the one that's like a huge douchebag?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of them are huge douchebags, but yes.
I'd argue that most wealthy singers are huge douchebags because
Just
people are just sucking their butts all the
wealthy
time.
people.
Yeah. Clapton has never been so syrupy sweet as in this love ballad to his future wife, Patty Boyd, also known as ex-Miss George Harrison. Great. And the woman who once had Clapton on his knees in Layla. But while this tune...
I don't like anything about that sentence.
I didn't write literally any of this.
I know.
It was all copied and pasted. Cite my sources. There are 3 of them. Whatever. I have a cold. I have limits. But while this tune doesn't seem to be anything but unabashed adoration, why are you laughing at me?
Yeah.
Yes.
With you.
No, at you.
Okay. Boyd once claimed that just listening to this song could be, quote, torture. Rumor has it that Wonderful Tonight was written when Boyd and Clapton were getting ready to attend a party. Go to a party. It's not part of the song.
I don't
probably.
know.
Wonderful Tonight is torture.
It's
He's right.
so long and slow and gross, and I
think-
hate it.
The lyrics
Yeah.
are not great. Well, and I'm about to tell you why. They were getting ready to attend a party hosted by friends Paul and Linda McCartney for a celebration of Buddy Holly's birthday. Boyd was taking longer than usual to get ready. Women. And every time she tried on a new outfit, Clapton said, "You look wonderful. Can we please go now?" He eventually grew bored of waiting, picked up a guitar, and wrote Wonderful Tonight on the spot as a sarcastic paean to Boyd's inability to make a decision.
Yeah, but then he shared that with someone in order to actually record it, and then he recorded it, and then he released it so he can go fuck himself.
Yep.
Yeah.
For being like, I know it's bad.
In a
I
nutshell.
made it as a joke.
Go
It's
to a
sarcastic.
party.
Oh,
I know.
No, it's fucking not, you
you're
idiot.
just gross.
I liked it.
Also, your body is a wonderland. Wonder wall. Anything with wonder, probably overdone, and we should just...
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
I don't have Wonderwall.
That's the song I picked for today's episode.
That'd be amazing.
Okay, here's another good one.
And the crime that inspired it is just the band Oasis.
Don't shit talk Oasis.
I'm not. I was kidding. I am still a fan of Wonderwall.
I love Wonderwall.
Yeah.
And that, what is it? Champagne Supernova.
Mm-hmm. And
the
the
two songs that I
know. The two songs that they have.
Okay, Paper Planes by MIA. Because of the gunshot and cash register sound effects, many people were convinced that the lyrics in the song were just bragging about committing crimes. But really, it's meant to be a satire of harmful immigrant stereotypes. MIA herself was denied an entry visa to the U.S. in 2006. The sound effects remind the listener of a robbery, but in this case, the song is meant to critique the military-industrial complex for supplying arms to developing nations while profiting off the bloodshed.
Mm-hmm.
Who
The
says pop music
bloodshed.
can't have a message? The bloodshed.
Profiting off the bloodshed.
Yeah.
It's meant to critique the military-industrial complex for supplying arms
Profiting
to
off the
developing
bloodshed.
nations while profiting off the bloodshed.
Your
Who
news
says pop
anchor.
music can't have a message?
You're like
News
Walter
anchor voice
Cronkite.
is so good. Who says pop music can't have a message? The awkward pause.
Who says pop music can't have a message?
And now to Kenyon Lang with the
With the
weather.
weather.
Don't put me on the spot. My hands just got instantly sweaty.
I just know that
It's
Kenyon
hot.
would be the worst at figuring out the map and like where to put her hands with like the one eye. It would just be a mess, and I would fucking love it.
I want to rent out
Yes.
a news station.
We're basically doing that for our live show, so maybe we can go early and try to, force Kenyon to do an impromptu weather report only for us.
It would
That
be
I secretly
in
record.
character as Moira Rose attempting to do a weather report.
Red wine-stained mouth. And we have a hurricane or blurblinger approaching Florida. Which is over
And a blue
here.
coming this
Fudge.
way and some red coming this way.
Oh my god.
Oh, that would
not
be
in
good.
my skill set.
Okay,
Not
this
yet.
one
How's
is
that
so
attitude
fucking
sound?
stupid I had to include it.
Perfect.
Firework by Katy Perry has been a motivational anthem since it was released in 2010. But according to the pop star, what inspired it was actually her own inevitable death.
Oh, wow.
Not expecting that.
This is... Okay. She says...
Katy Perry, are you okay?
No,
No.
because this is what she says. Basically, I have this very morbid idea. When I pass, I want to be put into a firework and shot across the sky over the Santa Barbara Ocean as my last
well, I
hurrah.
love that.
What's
That's
the
kind of
Santa
great.
Barbara Ocean, first of all?
The ocean near Santa Barbara?
The O in ocean is capitalized. I, again, did not write this. Anyway, good on you, Katy Perry. That's very motivational.
I hope this
Well,
happens for you. You have
she-
money, so I'm sure it will.
She made a song that will always be relevant for a particular holiday.
Mm-hmm.
And so it will always be replayed. And that is genius.
I like that song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do too. It's fun.
How come there are no Halloween songs?
There
Monster
are.
Mash.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have a whole playlist. I'll share it with you.
I'm good. Okay, Closing Time by Semisonic.
I wonder what
Missing
that's
out.
about.
it's not about what you think it is. This seemingly simple 1998 song about a bar closing after a long night of merrymaking is actually, at its core, something much more.
Oh.
Singer Dan Wilson.
Much
More. Lurking beneath the surface is something.
Is
Much
a story.
more. A
Singer
sinister
Dan
tale.
Wilson wrote this song for his daughter, who was born 3 months prematurely.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Wilson tried to keep the lyrics ambiguous so his bandmates wouldn't get annoyed about playing a song about a baby. But at this point, Wilson is mostly amused that nobody's figured it out. Who would?
Open all the doors and let you out into the world.
Yeah. This room won't be open till your brothers or your sisters come. So he says millions and millions of people bought the song and heard it and didn't get it. They think
doing the face of that meme lady trying to calculate.
With all the math equations like floating around her head.
They think it's about being bounced from a bar, but really it's about being bounced from the womb.
Lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Oh my God. But it's like,
Champagne wishes and caviar dreams.
also though, like, listen, Dan Wilson, not a great analogy. You
No.
blew it.
No.
Okay.
None of these really...
Makes sense at all.
No.
I would argue the Katy Perry one makes the most sense.
Yeah.
I want to be blasted into space as a firework, so I wrote a song where like the titular line is "Baby, you're a firework." Cool, that
Yeah.
tracks.
straightforward.
Right.
Okay, here
My
we go.
aunt met the Semisonic guys
Cool.
when they were at like the height of their fame, but she didn't know who they were or anything about it.
Oh, that's perfect. I love that.
I really like that. Okay, here's Mbop, Told Ya,
Yes,
by
this is what I've been
Hanson.
fucking waiting for.
So you'd think that this song is just a vehicle for getting a ridiculously infection hook stuck in your head, but in reality, Mbop is about the fleeting nature of friendship, material possessions, and even life itself.
In an mbop, you gone.
What? One of
In an
them was
mbop,
like
you're not there.
one of them was like 9 years old.
11.
9-year-olds have friends.
According to Zach Hanson, Mbop represents a frame of time, or like the futility of life. Things are going to be gone, and that's going to be all that's going to be left are the people you've nurtured and have really built to be your backbone and your support system. So some of the lyrics like, you have so many relationships in this life, only 1 or 2 will last. You'll go through all the pain and strife, then you turn your back and they're gone so fast.
I
The guns are fast.
could not have told you if you had like shared that whole paragraph of lyrics,
I don't
wouldn't
recognize it at all.
at all. I would not have been able to tell you what song that was from ever.
No.
Well, in an mbop, you're gone.
Yeah. Apparently I only know the hook. I bet if it played, I could sing along.
I think there's a song that goes, can you tell me? Oh, ooh, whoa. Right?
Probably.
Say you can, but you're down now.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
the one.
that's-
That's the one.
Anyway, Blackbird by the Beatles. You probably suspected that Blackbird is not about a bird. But the song's meaning
What?
is even deeper than you might think. It's actually about an African-American girl growing up in the Deep South in the 60s and dealing with racial violence and Jim Crow laws.
Oh, I'm gonna have to re-listen.
Take these broken wings and learn, to, fly.
Okay.
You were only waiting for this moment to arrive.
This moment of getting rid of Jim Crow laws.
Yeah, I'm curious what the moment was, but according to the Beatles.
Yeah, sure they had a really solid grip on the Deep
Yeah,
South in
I'm
the
so
60s.
glad they used their close connection to the effects of Jim Crow laws to write this poignant piece.
Beautiful song. Either
Why
way.
are white men? God damn it.
I know. Well, okay.
I can't wait for us to release our album
Right?
about the perspective of a black child, girl
No.
child in the
Here's
Deep
the thing.
South.
When we drop our album, it will only be a holiday album and it will only be sounds and it will have no point. no message, no connection to reality, and it will be perfect.
Halloween themed.
It's just gonna be us doing
Bibbidi
spooky
bop.
sounds. Doodly do. It's Halloween
Dingly
time.
dong.
Dickory duck. Trick or treat is o'clock. Go get your candy. They're looking dandy.
That's
Dickory
cookies by the
duck.
sink. Okay.
I don't know. I think this album could do really well.
It's
writing this
already
down.
fire.
Halloween album.
Who knew we could spit such mad fire, you guys?
Whoa. No.
Okay, moving right along, we got Gangnam Style by PSY. PSY or Psy?
It's
I think
Psy.
Psy.
It's Psy.
Okay.
And wasn't it like, it's Psy. It's not PSY.
That's all caps. I don't know. Okay, Gangnam. Gangnam is a famously well-off district in Seoul, South Korea. The silly video and song is a satire about the way people live outside their means in order to appear wealthy to others. This gets kind of dark. In the video, Psy is always shown in glamorous situations which are eventually revealed to be much less luxurious than they seem. He says, "Human society is so hollow, and even while filming, I felt pathetic. Each frame by frame was hollow."
Oh my. He took
That is
Instagram
dark.
versus reality to like a very dark place.
Yeah, I love it.
I know, I liked it.
All right.
You probably know this one, Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind. A banger.
Yeah.
He's a fave.
Shortly after the song was released, Third Eye Blind frontman Stefan Jenkins explained in a 1997 interview with Billboard that it's, quote, a dirty, filthy song about a drug-fueled bender.
Correct.
It really is funny that people play it on the radio.
I did not know that until recently.
If
but
you
yes.
re-listen, if
Yeah.
you listen to the lyrics,
Yeah. It's
quite
They're
obvious.
not trying to
to
hide,
hide it. Yeah. But it's just
it's
so upbeat.
such a fun song.
Yeah. Zach has seen them in concert twice.
I fucking
I'm
love Third Eye Blind.
Really
Love.
jealous. That whole album was phenom.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have Every Breath You Take by The Police.
I love the Police, so I will forgive them for that
Never.
atrocity
It's a
of a song.
stalking tale.
It's from the point of view of a stalker.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even Sting is stunned by how his lyrics have been completely misunderstood into
Yeah.
people thinking it's like
They're
a nice
very
love song.
Clear.
says- He says, I think the song is very, very sinister and ugly. People have actually misinterpreted it as it being a gentle little love song when it's quite the opposite.
yeah.
It's gross. Speaking of gross, You're Beautiful by James Blunt. No.
Okay, also horrible, but James Blunt has such a nice voice. He seems like
really?
a nice man. Is he bad? I'm Googling
I don't
it.
think his
I think
voice
he's
is
just
good
douchey.
at all. I can't stand it.
Okay.
James Blunt didn't mince words.
Shocked that you're a James Blunt fan.
I like him.
All right, I only have a couple left. She's dead
I've
again.
died so many times during this episode.
Okay. James Blunt didn't miss words when explaining his reaction to fans who think You're Beautiful is a romantic ballad. These people are messed up, he said. So if it's not supposed to be an ode to women's beauty, what's going on exactly? It's about a guy. He's British, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my British accent today. It's about a guy who's high as a kite on drugs in the subway, stalking someone else's girlfriend when that guy is there in front of him. He should be locked up or put in prison for being some kind of perv. Okay.
My favorite is when Michael Scott and Carol Stills break up and he keeps repeating just the like free clip on iTunes of that James Blunt song. No, and it's like, oh God, what is it?
Yeah.
Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend.
I like that song. Also,
So it's like, why don't you just buy the whole song? And he's like, I just want to taste it. I don't need the whole thing.
I'm sending you guys a picture of James Blunt and his wife, who is apparently
Emily Blunt?
Not
No.
Emily Blunt.
she's apparently like the 8th great granddaughter of the Duke of Wellington or something.
Okay. That is a curious match. And that's all I'm going to say.
Ooh, I love her hat.
She is stunning.
Mm-hmm.
He is a Lord of the Rings creature.
No, he is not that bad. I don't get it.
Stop othering her. You know she's sensitive.
Don't yuck my James Blunt yum.
Oh, you can have it all, honey. More for you.
I hope
honestly.
he's not an asshole, though.
I'm
I
still
really
not
don't know
over it.
anything about him.
I'm still not over Niles Crane, so she can have James Blunt.
Yeah.
All yours. All yours.
All right, I just got a couple left. Got to get you into my life by the Beatles.
Mm.
I know
Okay,
that
so the
one.
lyrics are, ooh, then I suddenly see you. Ooh, did I tell you I need you every single day of my life? Ringing a bell?
Sure,
Ooh,
yeah.
Tell me
To
it's
Kenyon.
about drugs. Not really, but
It totally is. Okay, Paul McCartney says he wrote the song, quote, when I had first been introduced to pot. So it's really a
Nice.
song about that. It's
It's
not
a
a person.
love song for pot.
It's an ode to pot.
I
like
love
someone
that.
else might write an ode to chocolate or a good, I almost said clarinet. What is that word? Claret?
Claritin.
Claret?
A good Claritin. I need one every single day of my life.
I want to hear an ode to a good clarinet.
Oh, then I suddenly see you. Oh, did I tell you I need you? My clarinet.
My clarinet.
Oh my God. Okay.
All right, last one is for Amanda. Jack and Diane is a little ditty.
Suck it on, chili dogs. Suck it on the chili dog. Suck it on, suck it on.
So
Suck it on
John-
the chili dog.
You
Okay.
sent you sent us that video,
The
right?
TikTok is the best thing in the world.
The guy redoing the whole Jack and Diane song, but
Sucking
only
on a chili dog.
I know. You have sung it on this show before. We need
And I'm
to keep
doing
going.
it again.
So
Don't
John
yuck my
Mellencamp
yum.
says this is really a song about race relationships and a white girl being with a black guy, and that's what the song is about. He explained that to his record company in 1982. The record execs were not impressed because racism, and purportedly told Mellencamp, whoa, 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 can't you make him something other than that?
Jesus Christ.
He eventually agreed to cut. They didn't want it to be about. They didn't want
biracial.
it. They didn't want it to be explicitly about a black man and a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
So he readjusted the lyrics so that it's less explicit, and he made it the focus be more on him being a football star.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's cool that he wrote that song and horrible that the record company did that.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! It's too extreme. In
Wow.
1982.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so that was our fun little jaunt down backstories of songs.
I love
lane.
it.
But what does the sucking on chili dogs part mean?
It doesn't mean anything. It's just a gross way to talk about eating a chili dog outside of a Tasty Freeze.
Yeah, it's gross either.
We're going to
yeah.
get to the bottom of it.
I am a sucking on chili dogs truther with Kenyon now. Join us.
Okay, are we ready for my case?
Sure
Yeah.
are. Let's do it. Let's
It's-
fall in love.
It's horrific,
Oh, yay.
both
Ooh.
in the crimes that are committed, the justice system,
Mm.
the number of victims. It's horrible. Just
Okay.
putting it out there. Okay.
All right.
It's also pretty well known, and I had like a panic attack for a moment that we might have already covered it.
I had to
But we-
search for mine too because mine was also famous, but it didn't look like we've covered it.
Yeah, I don't think
And
we've
if we
covered
have,
it.
ignore it. Who cares?
Yeah, whatever.
It's our
have their whole-
215th main episode.
So anyway, Carol Ann Fugate was born on July 30th, 1943 in Lincoln, Nebraska. Her parents divorced when she was young, and they both remarried, but Carol Ann lived primarily with her mother and stepfather. And she also had a sister, Barbara, who was 5 years older than her. And then when she was 12, her mother and stepfather had another baby, and so this was her new half-sister, Betty, who was, much younger. So we've got I can do math, like a 17-year-old, a 12-year-old, and then a little baby.
Okay.
That's a big
age
spread.
gap. That's actually the same spread that my, exactly the same age spread that my grandmother had. She had an oldest sister, then her sister Audrey, who was 5 years younger, and then way later, boom, surprise, my grandma.
My mom is 13 years older than her youngest sibling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There are 5 of them, so it was spaced.
Uh-huh.
And my biological grandfather passed away when my mom was 6, and my grandmother remarried and had 2 more children. So that all contributes.
Played in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so when Carol Ann was 13, she met Charles Starkweather. And this would not be a good turn of events in her life. She was 13 again. He was 19.
Okay. Don't like that.
Yep. He was a high school dropout, and he was a friend of her older sister Barbara's boyfriend at the time. And Barbara's 5 years older, so Barbara's 18, and that's how an 18-year-old hanging out with 19-year-olds is fine. But then when the 13-year-old sister gets in his sights,
Yeah.
that's pretty gross.
Yeah, that's gross.
So Starkweather worked at a warehouse unloading trucks, and it happened to be located next door to Whittier Junior High School, where Carol Ann was in 8th grade. And so he used this opportunity to meet up with her most days when she got out of school and walk her home and really pursue her romantically.
Ugh, gross.
Starkweather had been bullied as a child for being bow-legged and, quote, slow in school. And so to overcome that, he had worked to cultivate this, what he thought was a mysterious and alluring appearance. And he really idolized James Dean to the point where he was it was a Stan Eminem type situation where he was a total James Dean wannabe.
Didn't James Dean date young girls too?
I don't think so. He died really young. I don't think.
Yeah, whatever.
I don't know. So Starkweather would imitate James Dean in every way he could. He clothes, hairstyle, the cigarette hanging out of his mouth. He studied his gait and his mannerisms and just tried to become
His
James
squint.
Dean. Yeah, all of it. But Starkweather did not have the looks or the personality of a Hollywood heartthrob, and there are photos on the drive. One article described him as a, quote, swaggering good-for-nothing in blue jeans and a black motorcycle jacket, a former garbage man known for yelling, "Go to hell" at strangers.
Oh,
Oh.
Mr. Cool Guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He's got a very prominent chin and a very flat head.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's so flat.
It's real
He's-
flat.
You could enjoy
stocky.
a fine dinner atop that plateau.
Yeah. It's it's like one of those tables that you can cook stuff on. What am I talking about?
Like one of those hibachi
Yes.
tables.
That's his forehead. It looks like a giant hibachi grill.
Yep.
He also looks like a flat-headed Biff from Back to the Future.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So Charles Starkweather, not some charismatic bad boy. He was a very pathetic and yet brutal psychopath. And on November 30th, 1957, he committed his first murder. Starkweather became enraged at a gas station attendant named Robert Colvert for refusing to sell him a stuffed animal on credit. So basically refusing to let him take a stuffed animal for free. And presumably Starkweather's intention was to give this, I'm guessing, like teddy bear to
The child that he's pursuing.
his potential child bride, Carol Ann. Yeah, his underage girlfriend and statutory rape victim. So after this confrontation with the gas station attendant, he left the store, but then he later returned with a gun and demanded that Colvert hand over $100 from the register, which I think he did. And then he still used the gun to force Colvert into his car, drove him to a remote area, and shot him in the head before dumping the body and fleeing the scene.
Great.
Jesus. So he just killed someone.
Mm-hmm. Cold blood.
Cold blood.
Mm-hmm.
No fucking reason.
Yep.
Well, the teddy bear.
Right.
That's so fucked up.
So
It's
fucked up, and
sick.
it's gonna get so bad.
Right.
So Robert Colvert's murder was not immediately tied to Starkweather because it was pretty random. And so he, they're not like pursuing him because they don't know that he's involved. And he also spent the next couple of months trying to like lay low just in case, any suspicion was laying on him. Then on January 21st, 1958, he went to Carol Ann's home, where he was met by her mother and stepfather, Velda and Marion Bartlett, who told him to stay away and that they didn't want him having anything to do with their daughter. So the parents were like, "You're bad news and also way too fucking old for our child. Like, stay away from her."
Good.
And also, Carol Ann would later say that she had recently, like, broken up with him. And so that he came to the house after she had broken up with him. Of course, this didn't go over very well. And so it's just going to get so dark. Starkweather then shot and killed both parents, Velda and Marion, and then stabbed and strangled 2-year-old Betty
Oh my God.
before hiding the bodies in a shed in the backyard.
Jesus Christ.
He just,
Ugh.
they were like, he showed up at the door. They were like, "Get the fuck out of here." And he just murdered everyone in the home.
So Betty was the baby?
The baby, yeah. She's 2 years old. It's not even like she could be a witness. She's
No.
2.
This is just pure psycho rage.
Yeah. So Carol Ann, the oldest sister, was not home. And then Carol Ann was not home. And when she arrived home, she was met by Starkweather holding a gun. And he told her, she didn't know that her parents were dead. And he told her that her family was being held hostage and that if she cooperated with him, they would be safe. But if she fought him, they would be killed.
Great.
And that is how you know it's true love. From
Yeah.
the threats.
Oh, yeah.
Starkweather would later dispute this version of events and claim that Carol Ann had been at home for the murders of her family, but like, he is not a reliable fucking source of information. So I'm gonna go with Carol Ann's version that she was not home. Starkweather and Carol Ann then spent the next 6 days living in her family's house while they're in the shed.
Oh my God.
But when Carol Ann's grandmother dropped by and was told that she could not come inside the house, she became suspicious and alerted the police because, like, she's not being let in. Her, 13-year-old granddaughter is, like, acting strangely. She can't see the parents. There's
Something's
this
up.
guy there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And part of what raised her suspicions was a note left on the front door that read, quote, "Stay away. everybody is sick with the flu. Miss Bartlett.
I mean, that would work on me now. Stay away. Everybody has COVID.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Right.
Not going there.
But Miss Bartlett, the name Miss Bartlett was underlined twice on the note. And Carol Ann would later say that signing the note this way was her attempt to signal the danger that she was in because Miss Bartlett was actually her 2-year-old half-sister.
Oh.
Oh, because she had a different last
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
So she's trying to leave a little code.
Mm-hmm.
Clever babe.
Mm-hmm. You have a question, Lucy?
No, I didn't realize that it was Carol Ann who wrote the note. I thought it was the dude who wrote the note.
It was in her handwriting, so she wrote the note, but he probably made her write the note.
Mm-hmm.
And
because he probably wanted it to look like a family member's handwriting. So
Right.
it's
So
like someone inside the house saying, no, we're fine. We're just sick.
So she purposely wrote Miss Bartlett to be like,
Miss Bartlett. And,
Yeah.
you know, her
Raise alarm
2-year-old
bells.
sister, who obviously can't write a note.
Wouldn't be signing this note.
Right.
It's sus.
was the
Intentionally
2-year-old the
sus.
only one whose last name was Bartlett then?
Miss Bartlett, because her mother would have been Mrs. Bartlett.
Mm-hmm.
And Carol Ann kept her first name from her father, or kept her surname from her father.
Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
So at this point, so the grandma realizes that something is wrong, goes to the police. Starkweather and Carol Ann flee, or Starkweather flees, bringing Carol Ann with him.
Mm-hmm.
And when the police arrived, they discovered the bodies of Marion, Velda, and Betty and immediately launched a manhunt for the missing pair. They evaded capture, and with Carol Ann in tow, Starkweather embarked on what would become one of the most notorious killing sprees in American history.
Oh, my goodness.
She's 13. I
Yeah.
think maybe she might be 14 at this point, but she's young.
Yeah.
They first drove to Bennett, Nebraska, to the farm of a 70-year-old man named August Meyer, who was a longtime friend of Carol Ann's family. And when they arrived, Starkweather shot and killed him along with his dog.
Just point blank, like he opens the door, shoots him, basically.
I don't know. I think there are
Okay.
two scenarios. One is, and I'm sure somebody knows, I, didn't have time to really delve into all of the details of this, but either surprised him, shot him, just so they could have access to his resources on the
Sure.
farm,
Yeah.
or Starkweather had forced Carol Ann to tell him someone she could think of that could help hide them. She, under pressure, was like, well, we have this family friend,
Okay.
so let's go there, I guess. They go there. They try to convince August to help hide them.
Mhm.
He isn't having it or is suspicious, and then Starkweather murders him.
Okay. Either or.
Right.
It could be
Both terrible.
the first because, he clearly has no qualms about killing people who aren't involved whatsoever.
Right.
/ are
Yeah.
2 years old.
I mean, the first one is absolutely a possibility because he does just kill people very quickly
Yeah,
and
he
very
clearly just
randomly.
went off.
Indiscriminately.
Yeah. So they briefly remained on the farm before fleeing again. This time, Starkweather's car went off the road and became stuck in some deep mud. So then they had to get out and abandon it and walk.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're walking down the road, two teenagers, Robert Jensen and Carol King, not that Carol.
I was like,
Not Carol King.
Not
did
Carol
she
King.
feel the earth move under her feet?
Yeah.
And feel the sky tumbling down? Tumbling down.
I know, very fitting for this
Tumbling down.
episode. So these two teenagers were driving by. They spotted this other pair of teenagers, clearly in distress. And so they, did the kind thing and pulled over to offer them a ride. And after Starkweather and Carol Ann got in the back seat, he pulled out his gun and forced Jensen to drive them back to the farm.
Mm-hmm.
they went to an abandoned storm cellar, like near the farm. And he forced Robert Jensen out of the car and shot him in the back of the head.
Jesus.
Starkweather later claimed that he had handed the gun to Carol Ann and that Carol Ann had shot Carol King. Carol Ann, however, claims that she stayed in the car the entire time and that Starkweather killed both of them. Regardless, he then hid the bodies in the storm cellar, and then they took the victim's car as like their getaway vehicle and drove again.
Wow.
Not done. They then drove to an upscale neighborhood back in Lincoln, Nebraska, where they broke into a house that belonged to a wealthy industrialist named C. Lauer Ward and his wife, Clara. And the only person home when they first got there was the maid, a woman named Lillian Fenchy. And Starkweather stabbed her to death and then also killed the family dog to stop it from barking.
Oh,
so he's killed 2 dogs also so far. Then Clara, the wife, came home and Starkweather stabbed her to death and then lay in wait for her husband. And so when he arrived, like none of this is necessary.
I was going to say, what is the motivation here?
Yeah,
He's
it
just
also
creeping
doesn't
around
seem-
stabbing people.
Yeah, it's not like planned at all. It's just like, well, now I'm here and killing these people, and then I'm going to go over here maybe and kill these people.
Yeah, it's just completely indiscriminate.
Ugh.
Yeah. So, I mean, he could have like threatened the maid and gotten the keys to a car.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's not
Right.
that hard to not kill people.
It's not logical. None of this is logical or warranted or anything.
No. So then he basically ambushed the husband, and when he got home, shot him in the head. Then he and Carol Ann filled the couple, like the victim's 1956 Packard car with stolen jewelry from the house and fled again. And this time they left Nebraska. Probably because they knew that like doing this like mass murder of a wealthy couple and their maid.
It's going to get attention.
Yeah. So the discovery of the bodies of the Wards and Lillian Fenchy launched the manhunt for Starkweather and Carol Ann into overdrive. So there was already like a manhunt out for them because he had killed Carol Ann's family. But now it's like, oh God, they're killing
on a
more
spree.
people. Exactly.
Yeah, we got to stop it.
So the Nebraska National Guard was called in and they did a block by block search of the entire city of Lincoln, Nebraska, but they had already fled by that point. So they successfully fled the state. And then when they arrived in Wyoming, they spotted a traveling shoe salesman named Merle Collison asleep in his Buick on the side of the road, which is like the most traveling shoe salesman thing ever. A guy named Merle asleep in his
nap
Buick.
in his Buick.
I know.
He got sleepy from selling all those shoes.
Bubby.
So they used this opportunity to trade in the Packard for this guy's car because
now they're
police were searching for that car. Yeah.
They're going to have to do that probably a number of times.
Right. So Starkweather approached the car, shot Merle Collison in the head, and then later Starkweather would claim that Carol Ann had done this one as well, but like, yeah, fucking right.
Yeah. Well, and does it even matter? Because even if she did,
she's still a child being
it's
coerced.
because he's forcing her to do it.
Right.
So effectively, he killed all of these people.
Oh,
she had nothing to do with it.
We will get to it, and you will be really upset.
I'm sure I will, because this is what you do to me every week.
So when they attempted to flee in Merle's Buick, the engine kept stalling, which is part of why he was on the side of the road. Like his car was basically broken down. Not really, but like
Wasn't
mind.
cooperating fully.
Yes. Apparently, the Buick had a parking brake, something that Starkweather had never encountered, and so he didn't know that it had to be disabled before driving.
Oh, what an idiot. I love it.
I drove home from Minneapolis once with my parking brake on.
How?
I didn't notice.
I left
Not home to Des Moines, home to Chan.
But either way, I'm
I
shocked.
I drove a good 10 minutes with the parking brake on once and noticed that something was wrong with my car. I had just picked it up from it being serviced and didn't realize they had put the parking brake on because I never do. And it was like rattling and shit. And I was like, I pulled over and I called Zach and I was like, they didn't fix it. It's worse than before. Like, blah, blah, blah. And then figured it out.
I can't catch a break with these people.
Oh my
Break.
God.
Anyway, so he's not getting very far with the car. At this point, a passing driver, a geologist named Joe Sprinkle.
Oh God, how cute is that?
Presh. He
Notice-
dies, doesn't he?
Kenyon's gonna kill him.
She always kills the cute ones.
Noticed that the Buick seemed to be having trouble and stopped to offer his help.
A geologist named Joe Sprinkle.
Ugh.
Starkweather responded by threatening him with a rifle, and then
Okay.
at this moment, Sprinkle realized who he had stopped to help.
Because of the
realized that he was a
manhunt.
wanted man. Yeah.
Mm.
And so then brave Sprinkle lunged at him, grabbed the rifle, and a struggle ensued.
Oh
Brave
God.
Sprinkle.
Luckily, a local sheriff's deputy happened to be driving by at that very moment.
Wow. That
In,
never
like,
happens.
Fucking
Lucky
Wyoming.
Sprinkle. Lucky Sprinkle.
Brave,
Yeah.
lucky Sprinkle. And when the sheriff's deputy pulled over, Carol Ann finally saw an opportunity for a rescue. So she jumped from the car and ran towards the sheriff's vehicle, yelling that the man she was with was Charles Starkweather and that he was going to kill her.
Good for her.
Starkweather managed to break free of Joe Sprinkle and fled in the car. And he was quickly pursued by the sheriff's deputy, who radioed for backup and was joined by the local sheriff and the chief of police. And then there was a dramatic car chase.
Mm.
It exceeded speeds of 100 miles per hour.
He must have figured out the break then.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Sprinkle probably helped him, and then he was probably embarrassed and then threatened him with a fucking rifle.
Oh my God. Fucking men.
So they're speeding down these Wyoming roads 100 miles per hour, and the way it comes to an end is that the police chief fired a bullet into the back of the windshield of the car he was driving, and some of the broken glass injured him.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he pulled over and surrendered. At this point, Starkweather and Carol Ann were both arrested
Oh, for fuck's sake.
and extradited to Nebraska. Carol Ann claimed that she had not committed any murders and that Starkweather had held her hostage and that she had not even known her family was dead until after her arrest. She just knew that they weren't at home with her for those 6 days, and he was using them to
As
threaten
leverage.
her.
Yeah.
And she's 13.
Yeah. She stated, quote, "He threatened me by telling me that if I didn't do everything he said, he would make one phone call and have his gang kill my family, and it would be my fault."
Yep.
At first, Starkweather confirmed Carol Ann's account, but he later changed his story.
Oh, and we're going to believe the man.
The murderer.
Murderer, kidnapper, adult man.
Psycho.
Great.
Claiming that she had been a willing participant and that she was, quote, the most trigger-happy person he had ever met.
Fuck that guy.
He also allegedly said that if he was going to receive the electric chair for his crimes, that Carol Ann should be, quote, sitting in his lap.
You've got to be kidding me. That is so gross.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
He was, in fact, sentenced to the death penalty. However, he was only convicted for the murder of Robert Jensen, although there were 11 victims in the killing spree. And I don't know why.
Robert Jensen was the teddy bear guy?
No, Robert Jensen was one of the teenagers that they stole the car from.
I wonder if he took some kind of deal. But he was sentenced to death, so he couldn't have.
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense. When did these crimes happen? What year was
it?
it?
The 50s, 1958.
50s. Yeah.
I'm so curious because the only other time I've really seen something like that happen is either there's a deal that charges get dropped, or they know he did it but don't have enough evidence to get him in court. So it makes me wonder, like,
So maybe that's it.
Maybe this story he was telling about these girls having a hand in this were compelling enough to not bring him up on those charges. And they were like, well, he's being sentenced to death anyway, so what's the point of continuing to try and stack charges?
Right. I think part of it was he's been sentenced to death anyway, and the death penalty was carried out much faster back then.
Right. So it's like, we're not going to waste the court's time and re-traumatize.
Right.
Not that they care about re-traumatizing the families necessarily, but like, we're not going to spend the resources if we're putting him to death regardless.
Right.
Would be nice for those families to have that closure, though.
Oh,
Right.
fucking absolutely. I don't think that's the right call. We've just definitely seen cases where that's happened.
And then I think the other part of it was that he was claiming Carol Ann committed some of these murders, and there's, quote, no way to know.
Yeah.
Big quotes, whether she had pulled the trigger or he had pulled the trigger because there are no witnesses.
Yep.
When Carol Ann went to trial,
Good God, this poor girl.
she is a young teen. Starkweather testified against her and said that she had committed several of the murders on her own. Carol Ann, however, never wavered from her story that she had been Starkweather's hostage. But the prosecutor in the case painted this story as implausible and described numerous supposed opportunities where he thought she could have escaped.
Okay.
So, because he said that there were opportunities where she could have escaped, what are you looking at? He just saw a ghost. That was freaky.
He is Ray, for those who are not on Patreon and watching the cat terrorize Lucy during this whole
Lucy's
segment.
making some weird faces. So just because he thought there were opportunities she could have escaped, that just means that she wasn't really kidnapped. He wasn't really just holding her hostage.
It's just victim blaming is all it fucking is.
It's just so fucking stupid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How is a 14-year-old who's terrified that her family is going to be murdered,
Yep.
And who has seen the person holding her hostage murder
Kill other
people,
people.
including somebody she loves and cares about, in cold blood?
Uh-huh.
He has a weapon. He knows how to drive. She doesn't even know how to drive. How is she supposed to get away?
Keeping someone captive does not always mean they're like shackled.
In a chain. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
It's just, God damn it.
The jury found her guilty
God damn it.
as an accomplice in the murder of Robert Jensen, and she was sentenced to life in prison at the Nebraska State Correctional Center for Women.
I don't understand how this is possible.
In 1976, her sentence was reduced after a Supreme Court ruling declared that mandatory life sentences for minors were unconstitutional, and she'd only been 14 at the time of the trial, and so she was released on parole after 17 years in prison.
For crimes she did not commit.
So she's 31 years old at this point.
She moved to Lansing, Michigan, and found work as a janitorial assistant and later as a medical technician. You know, she spent so many of her formative years in prison. I don't think.
God bless her for getting any semblance of a life back. And like, thanks a lot, justice system, for just compounding trauma upon trauma. It's so fucked up.
Oh, we will get to the compounding of trauma.
Oh, good.
So,
Good.
6 years after her parole, Bruce Springsteen released his album Nebraska, with the title song was inspired by the story of Carol Ann and Charles Starkweather, because a lot of it's entirely inspired by the story, but the opening is I saw her standing on her front lawn just a twirling her baton, which is how Charles first laid eyes on Carol Ann. She was like
So
playing in her
petty.
yard.
Ugh.
Yep. Me and her went for a ride, sir, and 10 innocent people died. And actually, it was 11.
Doesn't flow as well.
Right. Several real-life quotes from Starkweather were incorporated into the lyrics of the Springsteen song, including the narrator, who is from the perspective of Charles, hoping that his, quote, pretty baby is sitting right there on my lap when he goes to the electric chair.
Okay,
That's
Bruce
gross.
Springsteen, maybe we don't need to be so fucking literal and write a hit song that's going to be played with these quotes over and over again, like further taunting the victim of this horrible crime. Maybe.
A lot of men have made art out of this story that only compounds this child's trauma.
There are subtle ways
God.
to create art from trauma that aren't just replaying direct quotes from your captor / murderer to a catchy tune to millions and millions of ears on the radio. Just, hot take. Also, I don't even like Bruce Springsteen, so fuck him. I don't care.
Yeah, I had
I'm
never
a Bon
heard.
Jovi gal.
I had never heard this song or album before I started writing this case, and then I listened to it and was like, okay.
Kind of tasteless of you,
Yeah.
Brucey.
Also, the lyrics.
I'm a Neil Diamond gal.
Neil Diamond. Neil, man.
Cracked
I
and
just mean
Rosie's as
specifically
controversial
of the
as he can get.
Jersey, of the New Jersey artists. You're usually like a Springsteen or a Bon Jovi.
I'm a neither.
I'm
And
neither.
I'm a Bon Jovi.
I don't care for either one.
So, also the lyrics
I don't
quote,
care for Job.
Don't care for Jovi.
quote, I can't say that I'm sorry for the things that we done, at least for a little while, sir. Me and her, we had us some fun. Are almost
Ish.
word for word taken from a letter that Starkweather wrote to his father from prison before he was executed. So he had romanticized this all for himself
Yeah.
in his letters home.
Mm-hmm.
Carol Ann hated the media obsession with the story.
Yeah.
And it has been cited as the inspiration for numerous Hollywood movies, and we will get to it. She stated in a rare interview in 1983, quote, I have been told that because of what happened, I'm public property and there's nothing you can do if someone wants to keep doing this to your life.
Ew.
Oh, God. Now I feel bad that we're covering this.
Well, we're trying to shed light on her side of things.
I suppose.
think. I personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not writing songs about this shit.
No.
She was the victim in this.
Mm-hmm.
She continued to live as quietly as possible in Michigan. In 2007, she married and began using her new husband's last name. Sadly, he died in an accident just 5 years after their marriage.
Oh,
Could this
God,
bitch
poor
get a
thing.
break?
Yeah,
I
catch
know.
a break.
In 2020, at 76 years old, Carol Ann began working to seek a pardon from the Nebraska Board of Pardons, writing in her application that, quote, the idea that posterity has been made to believe that I willingly participated in a murder spree is too much for me to bear.
Oh my God.
So I just feel like she wouldn't be seeking a pardon that is just on the principle of the matter if she was guilty.
No,
Yeah,
she
you
just
know?
wants...
especially that late in life.
Right.
I don't blame her for wanting her name cleared when she She only got released on basically a technicality anyway, like
Yeah, it
a
was like-
shift in the law.
Yeah.
So she could fathomably, if that hadn't happened, she'd still be in jail. So
Uh-huh.
of course I would want this completely eradicated from my record.
Yeah.
It's
Her-
sick.
Her attorney gave several interviews in which he declared his hope that people would now be able to look back and understand the ways in which teenage Carol Ann had been mistreated by the justice system, explaining that she was arrested in, quote, the bad old days before Miranda rights existed,
Oh, God.
and when the press was quick to paint a 14-year-old girl as a femme fatale
Yeah, it's
rather than an abused child.
they're just selling fucking headlines.
Uh-huh.
At
She was
the
like a
expense of-
Lolita.
Yeah. At
Blah,
the
blah,
expense
blah.
of her entire life.
Yeah, when really she had been kidnapped, her entire family murdered, forced to witness murders, and then the moment she could, escaped, like, to try to get help from law enforcement, and then was put in prison for 17 years.
Good God.
Oh, it's so fucked up.
Furthermore, the primary testimony against her had been provided by the man who kidnapped her.
Yeah, who has every reason to try to absolve himself to avoid the death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
This is like, it's the same fucking logic behind like taking, what is
Jailhouse
it? Like, jailhouse
informants.
snitches or informants, yeah, with like a grain of salt because there's so much for them to gain.
Right.
Well, also, he has been a lunatic throughout. So, like,
Yeah.
in his mind, she very well may have been a willing participant.
Probably to stay alive. She's not gonna be arguing. She's not gonna be picking fights with him.
No.
No,
He's
you
got
just
a gun to her the whole
he's
fucking
a
time.
total fucking psychopath, and he's
Yeah.
older. He's an adult. She's a child. He's armed. She's not.
And he has this whole delusion that they have a relationship.
Right, that there's some sort of like Bonnie and Clyde fucking
Right.
sexy duo.
Right.
Oh, God-ish.
But the subject of Carol Ann's innocence is still a hotly debated topic, although it should not be, in her hometown of Lincoln, Nebraska. And the Springsteen song, and then movies like Badlands, starring Martin Sheen and like little baby Sissy Spacek, which
I've
is
never
about.
seen that.
I haven't seen it either, but I heard it's incredible, and it is based on this story. Like, literally opens with like Sissy Spacek twirling a baton, and then Martin Sheen playing this asshole, like leering at her and whatever. And then also the movie Natural Born Killers, which has even less to do with this.
Yeah.
That is a
Loosely inspired.
crazy movie. I actually like that movie, but I don't think what's her
That-
name was supposed to be like a 14-year-old child.
No.
Juliette Lewis.
Juliette Lewis. Bill and I tried to watch that at the beginning of quarantine and we hated it. But
I've only seen parts of it, but yeah, I don't know why it's always lumped in with this. I guess just because it's a couple that goes on a killing spree, but like it has nothing to do with this case.
It's a really like fantastic, gory, violent.
Yeah. And it talks about the media being like drawn to these
Right.
Bonnie and Clyde like violent couples and like how twisted that is. But Badlands is actually supposedly about this case, even though it's still a work of fiction. So Tom King, the nephew of one of the victims, stated in a 2020 interview, quote, "She should just keep her mouth shut. We don't want to hear about it anymore. It just brings up hard feelings all over again. She better not come back to Lincoln. If she does, she may not make it out of town."
Jesus Christ. I understand that everybody's grieving, but this girl, now woman,
Direct your anger.
is a victim too.
That's fucked up. That's creepy also.
It's also,
Tom.
it's really cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have empathy for people who are, who are the surviving family of situations like this. It's fucking horrific, but, we're all responsible for how we process our grief. And having someone to blame is like it's a really like good feeling when you're in that.
You have someone to blame.
But
blame
exactly.
Charles Starkweather. Yes, he's
Exactly.
already dead, but like you have someone to blame. And it's not this child.
Precisely. That displaced anger is like a really common side effect of like grief and trauma, but like you gotta fucking process through that shit because this isn't okay.
So although the relatives of the victims are not united in those types of feelings about Carol Ann. So Liza Ward, the granddaughter of C. Lauer and Clara Ward, the wealthy couple, has described conducting extensive research about the case before coming to the conclusion that Carol Ann was innocent. She wrote a letter in support of the 2020 pardon application, which reads in part, quote, "Even if one were to remain unconvinced of Carol Fugate's outright innocence in the murder of Robert Jensen, perhaps one might find her not culpable, and by doing so, thereby travel to a place in which she was found deserving of this pardon. I very much hope that Carol Ann Fugate departs this earth with some measure of peace in knowing that her side of the story has been heard and honored." However, the Nebraska Board of Pardons in 2020 voted unanimously to deny Carol Ann's application.
Oh, for God's
What is the
sakes.
point?
Right?
What is the point?
What are they saving or accomplishing by doing
Some
that?
paperwork. God.
And that is my case.
You're
I
right.
mean, if there's
Hated
enough
it.
like public backlash against the pardon, then not that I agree with it, but I could see why they would say no under like public pressure, but I just don't get it.
Yeah, so it's not, she was a child. Like, it's not even like Carla Homolka and Paul Bernardo in Canada were like, you know,
the Barbies.
I think
They're the
so. Yeah,
Barbies?
they were like
Yeah.
they were married.
Yeah, we
and
covered
it's
this.
fucking horrible. And, you know, was she innocent? Was she not? Was she like forced to do it? Was she not? I don't know. At least she was an adult,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you could like question it.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But like Carol Ann is
A
a
kid.
young child.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the case, and
Wow.
it's really sad and horrible.
Well, thanks, Bruce
Great
Springsteen.
Job. Yeah. Fucking
Bruce
Springsteen.
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 I'm gonna do another super famous case, and that's because the song that it inspired is by Nico Case, who I fucking love. So, like, deal with it, everybody.
You're James Blunt.
Basically.
I don't know anything about Nico Case.
Oh, she's phenomenal.
Sounds like a phone case.
This is also extremely dark, so buckle up. I'm going to talk about Gary Leon Ridgway, a.k.a. the Green River Killer.
I have to admit, I didn't know a whole lot about the Green River Killer.
I didn't either.
So famous that I just kind of bypassed it.
Exactly.
And I watched a Cold Case Files like special, like 90-minute special on it last night. Oh,
well, then you had a psychic moment.
I did.
Yeah. I didn't know
So-
his middle name was Leon. I thought it was Lee.
I saw Leon, but
Yeah,
Maybe
I could be wrong. I have no
Gary
I-
L. Ridgway.
I could also be wrong, but this is the only time I'm even going to use his full name, so who cares? And this motherfucker was a piece of work. So just classic troubled upbringing. I'm using quotes, but like definitely was troubled. With a domineering mother. I'm using quotes, but she was definitely problematic. But I'm just super over that like very common description of like the domineering mom, and that's why
woman.
he's a murderer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, his father was also a violent abuser who seemingly hated women, but like, oh, I guess the domineering mom is the whole reason why he's fucked up. Yeah, sorry.
Blame the woman.
Right. Often instigating violence against Gary's mother and going on angry rants about sex workers in particular, which definitely attributed to Gary's like affinity and hatred for sex workers.
Yeah.
Due to psychological trauma that Gary experienced in the home, he often wet the bed in his childhood and preteen years, resulting in his mother aggressively scrubbing his genitals after each episode. As like it's definitely a fucked up form of punishment.
His story is such like an archetype.
Yes, it's literally the recipe on how to make a serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like to the T. It's bonkers.
They cover him in what's that show? That popular show.
Oh, the one on
Case Files.
Netflix where they like make psychological profiles or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mindhunter.
Mindhunter. I think
I'm pretty
that-
sure he's a case that they talk about in Mindhunter.
They
no?
might, but
I don't think so.
I don't know if he really makes an appearance because that was like what BTK, Ed Kemper.
I can say with confidence no because I just rewatched that whole thing recently.
Oh,
okay,
Actually,
okay.
I still have a few episodes left, so maybe it's at the second part of the second season, but whatever. Anyway.
I could be wrong. I don't know.
I don't know.
He's just
Either way,
such an
that's-
archetype that I thought so.
That's very much in the classic like serial killers of the 70s, basically
Yeah, also
archetype.
Gary Ridgway was in the 90s?
80s and 90s, but
Oh,
he
so
follows.
Which was
late.
before, would be
Right.
before the Mindhunter.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think he's in that, but it's definitely the same like genre of killer.
Okay.
And we'll
I
get
meant
to
after
it.
the Mindhunter. Yeah.
So he also struggled in school and was diagnosed with dyslexia. He was held back in high school. He was often the subject of teasing and bullying. You know, I know that like IQ is like very subjective and also the testing for it is like super racist and classist, but he had, you know, on paper had a very low IQ score, just like a lot of issues that were holding him back and making him a target, of course. So he got violent real quick. He stabbed a classmate when he was 16 years old after like leading him into the woods, like lured him into the woods and stabbed him.
My God.
The boy miraculously survived, even though he was stabbed through the ribs and into his liver. Like it's kind of amazing
stabbed
that he
with
lived.
a knife. Stabbed.
Yeah, with a knife.
I guess I was picturing like with like a other kind of implement because it was a classmate and their children. But yeah, with a
Yeah, but they were
knife.
like 16, so he
No.
he probably just brought a knife from home, like a
Right.
kitchen knife, you know. Gary did not see jail or juvie for this attack. He graduated high school around the age of 19 because again he was held back. Very few options before him. So he married his high school sweetheart and enlisted in the U.S. Navy, where he was almost immediately deployed to Vietnam. So just a perfect layering of trauma on top of existing trauma.
Oh, good. And
Definitely going to
nice.
go well.
who we want representing our nation. And,
Yeah.
Why do you
and
think he never
dealing
went to-
with firearms?
He wasn't punished for the stabbing.
I'm not sure. I mean, he's a minor. The boy didn't die.
That's
It
what
was the-
juvie's for, though.
It was the late 70s. Like, I have no
boys
idea.
will be boys.
Boys will be boys.
They just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I didn't dig into it because whatever the answer is kind of irrelevant. It happened. But like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he didn't. While he was deployed, his marriage ended due to infidelity with sex workers on his end. He also contracted gonorrhea, but continued to practice unprotected sex, even though he knew that he had this sexually transmitted infection, which is actually pretty easy to treat. So that's super cool. He married again with his when his deployment came to an end after he returned to the States. But this marriage also ended due to abuse and infidelity. Upon his return to the States, like right around this time that he got married, he also got super into religion and like specifically like proselytizing. So he would go door to door, like spreading the word of the Lord.
Is this the worst human ever?
It's just it checks every
Hang
box.
on, every
single box.
yeah.
It was like, wow,
Scrubbing the genitals,
Yes.
Vietnam,
Yeah.
stabbing.
Yes, it's bonks. So he goes door to door, spreading the good word, and his newfound belief system definitely was like bordering on obsession,
yeah.
but certainly did not deter him from adultery. He was cheating on his wife. He was hiring sex workers, which for clarity, there's nothing wrong with sex work. We've talked about this a million times, or hiring sex workers by any
No,
stretch,
but
as
if
long as it's
you're-
safe and consensual for all parties. But religious types love to fucking go off about virtue and sin, and this guy is literally going door to door, like preaching Christianity, while he's clearly just
It is wrong to hide engaging with sex work from
your spouse,
from other sexual partners.
right? Who believe you to be monogamous,
Right,
unless
that
that
is
was
wrong.
previously agreed upon,
Right.
For sure. Where I take umbrage with this whole thing is that he's like going around fucking casting stones while
Do as
he
I
is
say,
absolutely
not as I do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Gary certainly
Like
seemed
every
to-
other fucking religious leader.
I mean, pretty much. Gary certainly seemed to have an unhealthy relationship with women and sex, and psychiatric experts would say that he had a sex addiction. This was also like a psychological battle and obviously like cognitive dissonance and gymnastics that he had to do in his own mind, because he was like insatiable and compulsive in his need for sexual contact, but of course outwardly chastised and degraded sex work and sex workers, and like leaned into this, godly bullshit, which only made this whole situation more complex as his obsession with Christianity developed. And this is like a super terrifying cocktail that leads to some massive escalation that we're about to get to.
Not great.
Yeah. So in a pattern that we have absolutely discussed before, because he is the textbook case of how to create a serial killer, his sexual compulsions and obsessions escalated from a need to have sex and degrade women to straight up deadly violence against women. So in a 20-year span during the 80s and 90s, Ridgway murdered upwards of 70 women and girls in and around Seattle and Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
He had a very solid, did not deviate from his method/MO. So he would cruise up and down stretches of the Pacific Coast Highway. He would pick up hitchhikers who were often sex workers, or just straight up sex workers at roadside stops, and also young runaways, often using a photograph of his own son that he displayed in his car to elicit trust from those who hesitated to get into the car with him.
It was his real actual son.
Yep.
What was he showing them the son for? Just like,
Basically,
I've got a
it's
son
like,
your age.
I'm a family man. You can trust me. I'll just give you a ride. Just using his own child as a weapon. Now, did I put pictures of my nieces in my server book to get better tips when I was a server? Yes.
Of course.
Did I use those pics to lure victims into my car? No.
No, there is a line somewhere in between those two things.
I have a line, and that's it. I'm going to give myself a pass. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, Ridgway, very specific MO. So after picking up his victim, he would either go back to his home, because he often would, he lived in this area. So he would go out in his car, and as long as he was within an hour of his house, he'd just take them back to his house.
Hunting for prey.
Pretty much. So we'd either take them back to his house, or they would go park somewhere and stay in his truck, or maybe go to a secluded area like a park or something and get out of the truck to engage in sexual intercourse with his victims. I think a lot of times it was rape. A lot of times it was paid sex work. I can't confirm whether or not if any of these encounters were consensual
and not violent. Yeah.
Right.
So presumably the younger runaways who weren't
right
out there selling sex.
Right.
It would not have been consensual.
But even
there
with
is
the sex
no way to know.
even with the sex workers, of course, it could turn non-consensual on a dime.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right.
Either way,
probably a blend. It was probably a blend of all of the above.
Yes.
Either way, they all ended up dead. So
clearly,
not cool.
he's an older man. There's a power dynamic. He's preying on younger women and teenage girls and sex workers. There's coercion. There's power.
What you were trying to say was you don't know if any of these encounters were actually 100% consensual.
No clue.
And
I have
not
no
a
clue.
problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm assuming that they weren't, considering how
doesn't sound
fucked
like
up
he's
this dude
very
is.
capable of.
Yeah.
Not
I
fucked
can
up
only assume that the
sex.
consensual sexual relationships that he maintained were with his spouses. And even then, there was probably some fucked up shit going on, because he's just a mess of a human man.
Mm-hmm.
So, he would, during intercourse, he would position himself behind his victim so that during intercourse, he could wrap his arm around his victim's neck and use the other arm to apply pressure in essentially like a chokehold maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
He would choke them to death. Then he would dump their bodies in the woods around the Green River, which was basically ran adjacent to this highway. So he had all this road to go up and down the interstate or whatever, pick up these victims, carry out his sick bullshit and then put them in the woods along the
I know
interstate.
we've talked about this in like Pacific Northwest crimes, but like those woods around Seattle and Tacoma
They are dense and wet.
so scary.
Yeah.
I
They're
have never
dark.
felt so like some people find it like calming the woods,
No.
blah blah blah. It's so terrifying.
Not a woods gal.
They're dark and they go forever.
Yeah. It's
I mean,
a lot.
I like it, but
So obviously, you know, disposing of the bodies all along the Green River is how he got the nickname, the Green River Killer. So Ridgway would occasionally return to the sites where he disposed of bodies to further defile them sexually, claiming this helped him staunch his need for a living victim.
So he's one of those top tiers of
Necrophilia.
necrophiles.
Like,
Yeah.
I shudder to think if this really deterred him from killing, how many more victims there could have been if he didn't engage in necrophilia. But I honestly think this is just bullshit, and he's like loosely and sickeningly justifying his behavior.
Just part of the fantasy.
Yeah.
You can't, it's like people who say that like, oh, well, like, you know, sex work has to exist in order to like, you know, prevent other women from getting raped. It's
I
just,
feel like it's not replacing anything. It's just further escalating his.
and
Right.
Ted
Bullshit.
Bundy did the same thing, and
Oh,
he
we'll
just
get
fucking
to Ted
escalated
Bundy.
and killed more people. And
Ted
It's
Bundy
it's just
actually
escalation.
plays a big role in this case.
Great. But if you want to kill somebody, you're going to go kill them.
Exactly.
You're not if you want to rape a live victim, that's what you're going to do. You're not going to go back to somebody that you killed
Right.
6 months ago and be like, "Oh, this'll do."
Right. That'll
No.
satisfy this urge. I don't ever have to kill again. Exactly. So he evaded capture mostly because we just didn't have solid DNA profiling in like the 80s and 90s. So these dump sites were often littered with his own chewed and discarded gum and cigarette butts. And
Ew.
his victims, like most of his victims, had remnants of like semen.
right.
Yeah, they were raped
Exactly.
several times.
A lot of these victims, unfortunately, weren't found until they were pretty heavily decayed. And so a lot of the remains were only skeletal, which means they couldn't collect semen, but there were enough where they could, and they had DNA stored. Like around this time, it was like, okay, DNA forensics were getting there, but we're not there yet. So they're collecting DNA
Right.
and it's sitting in lockers, but then nobody knows what the fuck to do with it. So we
Right.
were just in that, like, he was in
Limbo.
that perfect limbo to fucking keep doing this and get away with it. So again, plenty of DNA evidence to collect, but we just didn't know what to do with it yet. So the Green River Task Force was a group of investigators assigned to this case, formed in the early 80s, and even enlisted the help of Ted Bundy in the search for their suspect. So Bundy, who was on death row at the time that these killings were taking place, actually helped them craft a solid psychological profile and was the one to suggest the likelihood that the killer was returning to the dump sites to have sex with the bodies. Because that's something he totally did. He was like, well, I used to do this. He's probably doing it too. They also had very similar upbringings. Like they were both born in Utah, but then like moved in early childhood to the Pacific Northwest. Like Bundy was like, oh, I know this guy. I am this guy. This is what I bet he's doing.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of wild that, like, I mean, I'm sure Bundy did this to feed his own ego.
Oh,
because he was on
1000%.
death row and was like, he had nothing else to do.
Oh, he loved
reached
being
out to
interviewed. He
them.
loved talking. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I actually think that this relationship that he has with law enforcement at this point, especially that the fact that he helped them solve this whole thing, is really interesting.
It is interesting. It was an interesting detail about this case.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't include this, but as I was reading about it, you know, they were talking about like, why are you helping with this? And like, you know, it's not going to get you off of death row. And they're like, you know, then when they would approach him about like,
help.
well, yeah. And then it's like, oh, are you responsible for this murder or this murder? And he'd be like, well, no, because like I take pride in what I do. So I'm not going to claim a murder that wasn't mine. So like that sense of pride and ego is knowing he wasn't going to get off of death row. He still wanted to like be involved because he felt proud of like the work, quote unquote, that he did over the years that he spent murdering women. Like, he was proud of it.
He
So
just
he wanted to,
loved
like,
the
share his
attention.
expertise. It's so gross.
Right,
He's
exactly.
the worst.
He served as his own lawyer at trial. That tells
exactly.
you everything you need to know.
He's an egomaniac.
Is the worst. So Bundy had been following the case from his cell in Florida and actually reached out to the lead investigator in like this task force in a written letter offering assistance. One line that he wrote was, quote, "Don't ask me why I believe I'm an expert in this area. Just accept that I am and we'll start from there." Classic Bundy. So he recommended
Vintage
the police, vintage Bundy. He recommended the police stake out the next victim site that they find. So if they like find a fresh site, stay there in an attempt to catch a suspect. I don't think that, I mean, this is not how he was caught. So I don't think that they were
But
able
that's
to.
a really good plan.
It is a good plan.
It could have worked.
But I don't think that they were actually even able to find another site
That was that fresh.
that was fresh enough.
right.
And we'll kind of get to why. So a stakeout, like I said, didn't bring Ridgway into custody, but he was arrested several times in the 80s for paying for sex and assaulting sex workers. But the charges just never quite seemed to stick. Like, he'd spend a couple days in jail, they'd take his DNA, whatever.
They wouldn't take assault against sex workers seriously
Right.
because of fucking patriarchy and misogyny.
Yep. And yeah, so he would walk.
Yep.
And at another arrest in 1987, police did collect DNA samples from Ridgway. They took hair and saliva. And again, no clue how this didn't immediately lead to an arrest other than it was the 80s. We didn't have the technology there yet. So they're
have the
collecting it.
databases. Yeah.
They don't fucking really know what to do with it. It's fucking infuriating to look back on so many heinous crimes that like could have been solved faster with access to modern technology, but like, alas, here we are. This is why the 70s and 80s was like a golden age for serial murder.
Wild.
Yeah. So the Green River Killer went a little quiet between 1985 and 1995. So this would have been like around the time where they're consulting with Bundy, and Bundy's like, well, go stake out the next fresh site you find. It's like, well,
Why
we don't
did he-
have a fresh site.
Why'd he go quiet for those 10 years?
So this was around the time that Ridgway met his third wife, Judith Mawson. They married in 1988, and she had been interviewed by investigators in 1987 after one of Ridgway's like sex work arrests. And she did not suspect him of being the Green River Killer, which she claimed she'd never even heard of. She was like, I don't watch the news. I don't know who that is. She did note, however, that Ridgway occasionally left early for work to earn overtime hours, but that this wasn't like abnormal or alarming to her. And way after the fact, after he had already been captured, she had given a couple of interviews where she was like, honestly, I think the only reason that he wasn't killing at that time was because like he actually loved me and I kept him happy. Which is like a little creepy, but kind of holds some weight. Like he had maybe he had a fairly fulfilling relationship, because it sounds like there are only 3 murders in that like 10-year span that could officially be linked to him.
I mean, there are, like BTK, I think, took a lot of years off when he was
Like, had a
distracted
family
by
or-
Yeah, which was
family.
attributed to his family.
Right.
So it's happened.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I don't think
really
it's 'cause
understand it.
I don't
but-
get it.
I don't think it's because she was keeping him happy.
No,
Maybe-
those were her words.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe
Not
Did they
he
have
just,
kids?
I don't think they had kids because he had children from a previous marriage, but
Maybe he just had less, opportunity, like less means, basically. Like his time was more.
right. He's
Monitored.
working. He's sharing space with somebody who is going to notice if
Right.
he's fucking
And
gone.
maybe a part of him really genuinely is just like, okay, fresh start. Maybe. I don't
Right.
know.
Who know? I don't know.
Who knows?
I don't
And
know.
you can also be a savage serial killer without being a psycho or a sociopath. So we don't necessarily need to attribute those factors to like they're not going to find fulfillment with a family.
Probably
Right.
not. And I mean, I'm never going to understand how the fuck people like this just go
But
so
there are
violently off the rails.
Plenty of cases where partners and family members just do not suspect
Yep.
at all because
Yeah, I
they-
don't necessarily like not believe her.
Right.
And I think in her mind, after the fact, she's like, well, we got married, we got together and he all but stopped doing this.
She was probably speaking her truth.
Exactly.
That's what she believed. It's not a lie.
Exactly.
Right.
It just might not be entirely
Reality.
accurate. Who knows?
Right.
So finally, in 2001, so this has been going on since the 80s, forensic technology had arrived enough to run like full DNA profiles on the saliva and hair samples collected from Ridgway in 1987. These samples proved a perfect match to semen and other DNA collected from the scenes of multiple Green River Killer victims and dump sites. An arrest warrant was executed for 4 murders in the early 80s that could be confidently linked to Ridgway's DNA. He was arrested on November 30th, 2001, while working at a truck factory painting vehicles. 3 more victims were then added to the indictment after his arrest because tiny flecks of paint were found at the scene that matched the exact type of paint that he worked with at the truck factory. And he was a spray painter of these trucks.
Paint will always get you.
Yep.
Don't work with paint if you're going to be a killer.
Seriously, when I painted just the egress windows of my upstairs, I had yellow paint in my fucking hair for like 3 weeks, and Justin, my hair guy, had to take it out at my like next appointment, even though I clearly washed. It sticks. So that whole detail just really that's like homage to Forensic Files. It's like it's always a tiny fleck. It's always a fucking fiber.
Always a fiber.
Always a maroon fiber from the carpet in a shitty fucking car.
It is always
It's
always a maroon fiber.
It's getting harder and harder to
breathe. A maroon. Maybe their name was not originally Maroon 5. It was Maroon Fiber. And their agency was like,
harder
sir.
and harder to kill.
Yes.
Maroon Fiber is going to be one of the singles off of our Halloween album.
Oh, absolutely.
Y'all, we're literally making an album about murders.
Yeah.
We're just shitting all over these people who are writing hit songs about murder.
2 satirical songs already that Lucy wrote and performed, so we're like on our way.
Hint, 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 hint.
We're on our way.
Episode 300.
So, thanks to
I
Forensic.
get so nervous.
Yeah, but
Clothed Circus TV.
you'll be great.
Clothed
Circus.
Circus TV.
So,
That's
I'm
the name of the
almost
album.
done. Thanks to forensic experts and technology, Ridgway was on the hook for at least 7 murders and facing the death penalty. So like we said, oftentimes suspects facing the death penalty will offer up information as part of a deal to take it off the table. And that's exactly what Ridgway did. Yes?
Another name of a single, Brave Sprinkle.
Great. Yes, write it down.
Brave Sprinkle.
Moving on. I'm so close to being done.
Okay.
So he bargained his confession to like multiple Green River murders to take the death penalty off the table. So they confirmed 49 victims that he
That is staggering.
Oh, it gets worse.
Staggering.
It gets worse because it's actually way more than that.
Yeah.
So 49 victims confirmed, which earned him 49 life sentences without possibility of parole, plus an additional 10 years per 49 victims for evidence tampering. So, or that was applied to 48 of the 49 life sentences. So it brought his sentencing total to 49 life sentences plus 480 years without the possibility of parole. So like, yeah, you're not going anywhere.
When I was younger, I thought that a sentence like that meant that they left your corpse in prison for that long.
That would be
You have always been
so
such
literal.
a spooky little bitch.
So spooky and so literal.
Lucy's like, can I tour the prisons of the life sentence people?
The deceased life sentence people. I want to see what decay they're at. So he is still in prison. He's still alive now. He has spent most of that sentence in solitary. So things are not great.
I didn't know he was still alive. Wow.
Oh, he's still. Oh.
Yeah, he's still alive. He just went to jail in 2001. I mean, he's old. He's going to die in prison and probably soon. He did lead investigators to more of his victims in 2003. And though 61 separate remains have been discovered that are all linked to him, 2 of the victims remain unidentified. So it was 3 as of January of 2021. So very recently, one of those victims was identified. It was his youngest known victim. I'm about to sneeze. I'm sorry. Oh, God. Ooh.
Bless you.
Wow.
Oh, okay. It was his youngest known victim, 14-year-old Wendy Stevens, who had run away from her home in Denver in 1983.
Oh,
She made it all the way to the fucking Pacific Northwest.
Another 14-year-old.
Yeah.
Sad.
Another unknown victim has a recently updated facial reconstruction, like sketch/image that's circulating. I've put it on the drive/blog in the hopes of identifying her. Ridgway.
The blonde lady?
Yes. So Ridgway didn't even know the names of the majority of his victims. So the fact that he could tell investigators, like, yeah, I killed this person, this is where they're buried, did not have any bearing on whether or not they could identify these individuals. So fortunately, the vast majority of the discovered remains have been identified, but now we're still waiting on 2 more. And he actually confessed to upwards of 70 murders. Some reports say 90, some say 80. There are still likely 10 or more victims that simply have not been discovered in that area. And like Kenyon said earlier, like it's not that easy to just go into those very dense woods.
No, there's so much of them.
And they've been looking for these women.
Animals.
Yeah, they've been looking for these women who were killed in the early 80s. And like you said, wildlife, weather.
It's pretty like wet and
It's
humid
very
there,
wet.
too.
Like it's really sad to think
Lots
that,
of like leaves and needles and things that can like decay and
it's been so long that like cadaver dogs probably won't be super helpful in those
so
searches.
much ground to cover.
Yeah, it's
Well,
just
in terms of him like leading investigators to some of his dump sites, in the show that I was watching last night, they had video of him like, leading police officers down
he
into
did
the
it
woods
as recently as 2018.
But he like got off on it. He was just like
1,000%.
like he was like reliving it. He like
Yeah.
really enjoyed it.
Well, yeah,
and some of the
he's been in
investigators.
fucking solitary for years, so he probably also just loved being outside of the prison.
And
Well,
he
I
liked
think-
going to those sites beforehand because he got off on it.
But some of the cops who were with him were like giving interviews, and they were just like, yeah, it was really uncomfortable because he was clearly really enjoying himself. Like,
Absolutely.
retracing his.
Yeah, of course. So Ridgway holds the current record of committing more murders than any serial killer in U.S. history. So eerily enough, just before Ridgway's arrest in 2001, Nico Case wrote and released what is called a murder ballad titled Deep Red Bells. This song was written about the Green River Killer and victims because Nico grew up in the Seattle area and was raised surrounded by the fear of this serial murderer. Like, she grew up while this was happening and like hearing about the Green River Killer. She obviously didn't know who the killer was at the time that she wrote this because he hadn't been caught yet. And red bells in particular refer to a common plant in the wooded areas where the victims were hidden. The lyrics of the song focus on the victim's perspective. The song is super haunting and gorgeous, and I will wrap this up by telling you the lyrics. It says, he led you to this hiding place. His lightning threats spun silver tongues. The red bells beckon you to ride. A handprint on the driver's side. It looks a lot like engine oil and tastes like being poor and small and popsicles in the summer. Deep red bells, deep as I have done. It always has to come to this. The red bells sing this tragic hour. She lost sight of the overpass, but daylight won't remember that. When speckled fronds raise round your bones, who took the time to fold your clothes and shook the valley of the shadow, deep red bells, deep as I have done. Where does this mean world cast its cold eye? Who's left to suffer long about you? Does your soul cast about like an old paper bag, past empty lots and early graves, all those like you who lost their way, murdered on the interstate, while the red bells rang like thunder, deep red bells, deep as I have done.
Oh my God.
Isn't it spooky?
I love that.
It's beautiful. I want to listen to it.
It's
but
really gorgeous, and you'll
I'm
listen to
just-
it and then become obsessed with Nico Case's entire fucking lexicon. So
I'm
buckle
just
up.
staring right now. I went to the Wikipedia page and I'm just staring at this list of victims'
It's
names.
so long.
And it's so long you have to literally scroll.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's really fucked up and sad.
I mean, the number of people that he fucking hurt. Oh, I'm just. It's a
The
lot.
sheer volume, you can't even
take
wrap your head
in.
around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
And
nice
that
job.
is my case. So, Crimes
Your
That
Nico
Inspired
case.
Songs was really fucking dark. Turns out.
I'm glad I had a little bit of a lighthearted segment because
Thank
you
God.
two brought it.
We complain about the fan pics being so dark, but then we'll be offered an opportunity for
Yeah.
a fan pic to be really lighthearted, and we're like, LOL, hold my beer.
That's true. That is true. My case was so dark that I forgot that it wasn't a fan pic and that
Yeah.
I did this to myself.
Right. Yeah, we didn't have
And all
any
of
fanfic
us.
cases, and we just fucking went for it this time. So sorry. Come to our live show.
Buy tickets to our virtual live show.
Yes.
Do it.
All right.
Oh my
Thank
God.
you.
Thank you,
thanks,
Alex D.
Yeah, thanks, Alex D. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.